exactly what we have here tonight as we are kind of diving into the ever-changing state of college athletics with the House NCAA settlement that came to fruition about 2 weeks ago or so here now. Another game changer for college sports, a lot of new rules, back pay for college athletes in the last couple of years before NIL became a thing. The NCAA approving, I think it was $2.8 billion in back pay for athletes that weren't able to cash in on NIL deals. There is now new regulation for name, image, and likeness deals. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the biggest development in all of this is starting basically in July 1st. If my memory serves correct, the schools will be able to directly revenue share with athletes now up to $20.5 million this first year. And Arizona State is 100% on board for this right now. Graham Rossini, the athletic director, has said that ASU is committed to the full revenue sharing amount. They are also expanding scholarships across all of their sports, most notably in baseball, adding a ton of scholarships for Willie Bloomquist to work with. Graham Rossini was at the Cronkite School downtown yesterday for a long press conference. I got to tip my hat to Graham Rossini. He took questions for almost an hour over there in downtown Phoenix yesterday to talk all things Arizona State and how the Sun Devils are prepared for this really evolving and changing landscape in college sports. This is what he had to say, first and foremost, about the state of ASU athletics and how they are trying to figure out the money aspect of this, because the revenue sharing and things like that is coming out of the athletic budget here. There is not necessarily an influx of money the NCAA is giving these schools to come up with this revenue sharing. This is money that the schools are already kind of have to be generating. This is what Graham had to say about that.
We've been at this for almost 2 years now in different iterations, and I think back to 2 summers ago, we announced the naming rights of Sun Devil Stadium evolving into Mountain America Stadium, Mountain America Credit Union, creating an incredible partnership, best of its kind in terms of the investment that they were making in naming rights. I think it's still the largest investment in college football history. That really started our evolution of building out a better business within Sun Devil Athletics, and that's continued with the partnerships that we've started to create. We have a number of new partners coming in at 7-figure levels, really focused on ticket selling and fundraising, building a better game day, a better fan experience that helps us navigate. It can't only be about wins and losses. That's incredibly important for fans making decisions, but we want it to be affordable and exciting and great for families of all ages to come in. We live in the Valley. We live in the best community in America, and we've got an incredible connection tool with 26 Sports to bring new fans into the conversation, let them make an investment into ASU in the way that they see fit, and that investment is in turn resourcing our ability to compete at a very high level in this new environment. So we're ready for it. We've been tracking on all the twists and turns along the ways. The Big 12 has been incredible in the leadership that they've provided. Commissioner Yormark has been at the table in a lot of these key decisions that have been made. Jessica Presnall is the lead general counsel for the conference, has been enormously valuable in navigating, very well-respected voice amongst the other Power Four conferences, and was heavily involved in the settlement process. So, it's been many years in the making now, and we're just happy to have clarity.
Yeah, clarity is kind of the name of the game here, right? Because for the last couple of years since NIL became a thing, name, image, and likeness, it's kind of been the Wild West across college athletics, right? You hear these reported sums of $10 million of NIL for an athlete going somewhere, and then you got the transfer portal, and sure, schools aren't supposed to be contacting players that aren't in the portal, but with agents and intermediaries and family members and things, you hear things trickle out of, well, so-and-so player wasn't necessarily in the transfer portal, but this one school may be willing to offer them $5 million if they were to enter the transfer portal, and some of that will probably still exist, as it's kind of the old saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, and that's kind of the landscape of college sports in a sense. But these new rules that are in place now with the House NCAA settlement is hoping to curb some of that, and part of that is with some new NIL rules in place. If deals are going to be worth more than $600, they have to kind of be disclosed. They're going to go to a clearinghouse to kind of vet if they are quote-unquote market value for said athlete. This is what Graham Rossini had to say about some of the new NIL guardrails that are going to be put in place in the next year.
Our athletes are used to disclosing their NIL deals. There's been different tools that we've used for that, but we've always encouraged that. It's been part of our policies that athletes have had to disclose deals, so they're familiar with that process. Where it benefits moving forward is the new NIL Go process that we'll be using. Deloitte's involved in managing that, and again, a lot of people are maybe skeptical about the reality of holding up to these new rules and these guidelines. Well, Deloitte's one of the big four. This is a company that's existed for, I think, 200 years at this point. They've spent a lot of time and put a lot of smart minds on NIL moving forward in terms of how do we come up with range of compensation, making sure that the tool is user-friendly, making sure that it's very quick and dynamic in terms of, if you follow the info sheets and the information they put out, the deal has to be approved before it can begin. So before the athlete performs the deliverables, certainly before they receive the compensation for that NIL, it has to go through this NIL Go tool with Deloitte. So I'm excited about it. We've spent a lot of time with the people involved as they've interacted with the Big 12 and as they've been preparing accordingly. So we'll be in constant communication with our athletes. It's already started in football and the basketballs in terms of getting them oriented to the new normal, making sure that they're enrolled in these new tools moving forward. We've got the same thing with LBI, which is a tool that we'll be using for RevShare as well. So it's been a process building up to this point. We flip that switch next week, and there'll be learning curve as there would be with anything that changes, but I feel like we've been tracking on it for long enough to really help our athletes navigate the new tools that they'll be using.
Yeah, you heard Graham say it there. It's next week, the beginning of July, when these new things kind of go into place and into effect here. It was kind of a wide-ranging conversation yesterday. As I said, Graham talked for almost an hour with reporters at the Cronkite School. And another thing that came up was the proposed renovations to Desert Financial Arena. There are plans in place. There is a plan to move forward with renovating the inside of that arena. It needs a little TLC. If you've been out there lately, it's still a great venue, but when you compare it to some of the other venues in college basketball, and then you look across the street to what Mullet Arena is for the hockey team and gymnastics and some women's basketball, the plan is to kind of bring Desert Financial Arena up to that level, if you will. This is what Graham Rossini had to say about those proposed renovation plans and what the timeline may look like moving forward for Sun Devil basketball fans.
I think it's a great building. I think it's capable of a lot more, and we're hard at work on all those things. I alluded to it this spring. We're hard at work on finalizing a plan for a multi-year renovation. That is continuing. We've already put about 10 plus million into it over the last 18 months that most people wouldn't notice. It's more infrastructure, it's more mechanical, it's more electrical, life safety systems, et cetera. That's kind of the foundation that we need before we do some of the more fan-facing upgrades that we're planning on starting next summer. We want to get a complete plan finalized, and we'll announce that hopefully here in very short order. It's been fun in the process. When you're talking to architects, you're talking to people about what this building needs to become moving forward. It's an incredible university asset, and there's been great history in that building, not only from the basketball and the other sports that compete there, but those of you in the Valley in the 70s and 80s, I mean, the concerts that came to this building, and U2 and Jethro Tull and AC/DC and on. The Rat Pack played in that arena at one point. And so literally our women's basketball team room before they go on the court used to be the green room. And so I'm like, Molly, you got to tell parents. Like, the kids may not care, but the parents might be excited that Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and these guys were in DFA. And so my point there is that there's great history, there's great bones in the building. And we've got Mullet Arena, that's the shiny new toy. We've got Desert Financial Arena that's got incredible history and legacy and really strong bones in it. We want to bring those to life. We want to tell those stories throughout the concourse. Obviously, it's where our Sun Devil Athletics Hall of Fame is represented. I think on a game day, there's a lot more that building is capable of. And so we're designing around a better game day for any sport. How is it a better tool for graduation? Could it also be a tool for attracting non-ASU events to campus? That's going to be important in this new environment moving forward. So Desert Financial is high on our list. It's something that we're working on very much daily right now. And year renovation, we're going to try to maximize every day during the summer window. We've got the benefit, if we're bleeding into the fall, Mullet Arena enters the conversation. We've played volleyball there. We've played some women's basketball there. We're trying to avoid that, where we can use May and the summer months to get as much done over a series of years to get it updated. And so those are the details that we're still working through, the full scope, the full construction plan, and what adjustments we need to make as a result.
You can really feel the energy and excitement surrounding Arizona State athletics right now. And don't just take that from a Sun Devil graduate. I think that people in the Valley can sense an excitement not only for football, but just everything that this university is kind of going through right now, and the rapid growth and expansion. And if any university was kind of positioned to deal with these changes, it feels like ASU is in prime position right now, if you will, because when you have these changes and you need an influx in fundraising, you need an influx in boosters and things like that to help fund some of these things, what better time than to come off of a dream run to the college football playoff, a Big 12 championship in volleyball, a solid softball and baseball season, bringing in Molly Miller as the new women's basketball coach. There's so much momentum building around Arizona State athletics right now. It certainly seems, not just in the Big 12, but maybe in the Southwest, as you start to expand as well, that Arizona State could be in position here to do something special. You hear Kenny Dillingham talk about it all the time, that every 5 to 10 years, specifically in college football, there is kind of a new brand, if you will, where Oregon burst onto the scene. And then a few years after that, it becomes Clemson, becoming what they were under Dabo Swinney and making a run that they did to become a national powerhouse and brand. And perhaps the Sun Devils will be the next one for continued success in not only football, but across all their sports. It's also worth noting that Graham Rossini did say yesterday that while the school is committed to the full revenue sharing, they are not planning to announce the breakdown, if you will. He said that a majority of that revenue sharing will be going to men's basketball and football, but they will not disclose exactly the financial breakdown of who is getting what, if you will. And then it's worth noting that 26 sports for Arizona State athletics, and there is no plans right now to cut or scale back on that. So they are still very much committed to the Olympic sports and things like that, which is great to hear if you're a Sun Devil fan, because, of course, in the Pac-12, specifically before the move to the Big 12, the Sun Devils had a history of doing very well in those Olympic sports. And if you look at swimming in the last couple of years, they've sent some swimmers to the Olympics as well. So we got Big 12 football media days coming up the first week of July, the 7th and 8th. I will be out in Dallas, Texas, the Star in Frisco. That is where we will get a chance to kind of really kick off the Sun Devil football season. So we will have some special streaming-only shows coming to you from the Star in Frisco, as well as, of course, coverage on all of the evening shows on Fox 10. So continue to follow me on social media. We'll get some more info on that out as we have it. But thank you for joining us and joining me here for this first ever Fox 10 Talk Sports on a Friday night. We will do it again next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.